Hello and welcome to another video. As some of my long-time viewers know, my principle whenever I'm reviewing a product is to use it for as long as possible before I can give a proper honest review. Really test it, see how it performs, because one of the hallmarks of a good piece of equipment in the outdoors is its durability, its longevity, it's how long you can use it for. We all too often on YouTube now we see these unboxing videos where someone receives the package in the mail, they open it up and they review it right there and then. All that tells you is that they have eyes and ears and they have an opinion, and it doesn't really get into how it performs longer term, used in the field and so on. So I try and give at least a year before I review anything. And sometimes, because I've been using something for so long, it gets overlooked in the review process. And one of those things is my Helle Temegami knife. This knife has been a companion for, I'm not exactly sure how many years, but I'm guessing over 5-6 years now. At the very least, probably more than that, and it's been in, I'd say, almost weekly use since then, and it's still going strong. So in this video I wanted to do a short review of the Temagami, tell you what I like about it, what could be improved, what needs to be changed, and whether this might be the right knife for you. If that sounds interesting to you, keep watching and we'll be back in a moment. So this is the Helle Temegami knife. It was originally developed in partnership with Les Stroud, Survivor Man, as a long-term, all-purpose bushcraft knife. So it comes in a leather sheath, just a very standard leather sheath. It's got a nice little cutout here of a paw in my particular model, and you've got a little loop there, belt loop on there, just held in place with one rivet. It's plain and simple. Then we've got the knife, has a curly birch handle, which I just think is absolutely stunning. It was one of the things that really drew me to this knife. And we've got a stainless steel blade. So long-term viewers of the channel will know that I do prefer stainless steel over carbon steel, but this is, I'm told, and I've found in experience, a particular blend of stainless steel that does very well for edge retention, and I've found that as well. It is, I'm not going to say completely full tang. We do have a kind of half tang at the end, but the tang does run the length of the handle, so this means that it's quite solid. We've also got quite a decently thick spine to the blade, and it is cut to close to 90-degree angles. You can just about strike a fire seal off that. It comes with a usual Scandinavian grind, so a 22-degree bevel on here, and comes out of the box, from what I remember, really nice and sharp. Now, as I say, I've been using this for many years now, and you can kind of see that the blade is nowhere near as perfect and shiny as it used to be. The sheath itself has picked up some odds and ends there, but it is still performing just as good as a knife. I've used it for battening through wood. The nice thick blade and the sturdy handle means that it does split really well and keeps going. I've used it for all sorts of bushcraft carving tasks, so from cutting string to making tent pegs to even some finer bits of carving, making like fishing nets and net needles and all that kind of stuff. And I've found it as a really good general purpose bushcraft knife, the kind that you just have on your belt and you can just use for whatever you need to. It might not be perfect for use for cooking. It might not be the best tool for splitting, and it might not also, it definitely isn't the tool that you want for very fine carving work. But as a general purpose knife, it has served me very well. Blade length is just about the right length, I'd say, just enough so that you've got a lot of blade to use for angled cuts, but not so much that it becomes unwieldy and more of a Bowie style knife. And it's not quite as unusable as a more Eldris. So what do I like about this knife? First of all, I'd say the handle is really great. I have quite big hands. I think they're about size 10 in gloves, and I find that it sits in my hand perfectly. It's got just a slight swell to it, but not really as pronounced as some knives, and it's also not as flat as some other knives, kind of more like a kitchen knife style. I found that fits really well in the hand. You can get a really solid grip. The wooden handle means that even in this cold weather, it's a frosty morning, still only a couple of degrees above freezing, and it's comfortable to hold at that temperature. As for sharpening the blade, I haven't had any issues. Found it relatively easy to sharpen with a whetstone, and even with a pocket like Fallkniven sharpening stone. It's coped really well with that. I've been able to put a decent enough edge on it, so it stays functional for a long time. As I'm quite a busy leader and I tend to prioritize sorting out the main kits first, I very rarely get round to sharpening this, but it still stays sharp enough, and I've used it for week-long trips and haven't needed to do much more than touch it up every now and again, and it's performed really well. The knife sheath, as I said, like the paw print on it, but knife sheath, as I say, is what could use a little bit more work, because we have a pivoting loop and no keeper press stud or strap or anything else. It has a tendency, if you sit it on your hip and then you kneel down or something, it can often just drop out of the sheath. So this is something that I'll be looking into in the near future, is trying to find a replacement or make a replacement sheath for this, one that actually has a keeper strap just to hold it in. Either that or wet shaping this and seeing whether I can get a snugger fit. Because right out of the box it did work well for quite a while, but I've noticed that lately it just slides in and out quite easily, and obviously if the knife drops out and you leave it lying on the floor, that's not the greatest advert for knife safety or for actually having a knife when you need it. So I'll be honest, the thing that originally attracted me to this knife was the price point. Before this knife, I'd been using a regular Mora Companion, which are fantastic knives for starting out with. They have enough durability to cope with your basic tasks, as long as you're not too rough with them. They come sharp out of the box, they sharpen easily, and they're not something that you have to worry about damaging, because they are so cheap to replace. So I came across this knife for a short while. It was carried by Cotswold Outdoor while I was working there, and I managed to get a staff discount on it, and it ended up being a pretty fair price. Basically, I'd call this a mid-range knife. So it's not going to be as cheap as your Moras or as your Halterfors, but it is a lot cheaper than the custom tailor-made knife manufacturers, talking about Ben Orford and everything else. They're well over 300, 400, some even 500 pounds for a knife. And for me, even with working outside full time, I couldn't justify the increase in price for actually what I would get in return. So this is a perfectly capable knife. It does everything I need it to. Aesthetically, I do love it. That curly birch handle is just stunning. It makes me, to quote another famous YouTuber, it gives me the fizz. It's something that just speaks to me. It's a wooden handle, it has life, it looks beautiful. It's something that still makes me happy every time I pull it out of the sheath. And I found it's a really solid step up from a Mora. It's got that thicker blade, it's got that better tang, so it's more robust, so you can do more battening with it, you can knock it through things a little bit easier. But it doesn't have the price point of the really expensive knives. And barring some horrific accident or whatever, I think this is likely to be my knife for another 10, 20 years. And I'd be happy to recommend it to everyone who's looking for a step up from the basic knife, something that has a little more heart and soul, and something that'll make you a little happy every time you pull it out of your bag and get to use it. So there we go. Hope you found this useful. If you've enjoyed this and you'd like to find out more about the other kit and reviews that I have on my channel, I have a whole playlist. I've been making these style of videos for basically 3 years now, talking all about the kind of kit that you want to use and in the outdoors. So clothing, equipment, talking about stuff that's durable, stuff that's long lasting, and stuff that is ergonomic and will make you happy when you use it. And before you go, I want to say a massive thank you to Wellness Woodlands for making this video possible. Their continued hosting of me on the site here in beautiful near Shropshire countryside. It's a beautiful place to film. It's a great place to get away for a bit from the traffic, from the noise, and really enjoy the peace and quiet properly. So as always, there's a link down in the description, so do check them out. And with that, thank you so much for watching and listening. Remember to make the most of every day, and I'll see you all next time.